Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
I hope you got to take a chance to go outside today. If not, there's always tomorrow, but the weather in Houston, if you're in Houston, was just perfect for a walk. And I got to take a walk, walked my dog, and beginning to see very small signs of spring coming, little purple flowers sticking up out of the grass, but the grass, we're only a couple of weeks after our ice storm, and it's looking really yellow. The palm trees are yellow. It looks like straw. Will it stay like that? Of course not. Of course not. We fully expect our Houston green grass to be coming back as we move from winter to spring. We will see it turn green again. I'm wondering tonight, what has dried up and turned to straw in your life? Are there painful circumstances or difficult people that just don't seem to change? What if I told you that those very difficulties can be the source of your greatest spiritual growth? I promise that tonight we'd be doing some spiritual alchemy. Our topic is turning straw into gold. We're continuing in our series on Jack Kornfield's A Path with Heart. And we've been practicing in our series being present, being aware of the need to stop the war within, seeing the need for healing. And so tonight, we consider the fairy tale Rumpelstiltskin. Do you remember that one? The story of the young maiden who found herself in a room filled with straw. And she doesn't realize that the room full of straw that she's locked in is really gold in disguise. We don't realize that all that is around us that may seem like winter and dried up, suffering, struggle, all that can be transformed into opportunities to deepen our peace, our wisdom, our patience, our compassion, and even our sacred presence here on this planet through those very difficulties. So how do we turn straw into gold? I'll share with you a story from A Path with Heart. It's a story of a professor of psychology who came to meditation retreat. She'd been studying meditation. She turned to meditation to seek greater peace and understanding in her life, and she did a lot of study of Eastern philosophy. She wanted to better understand the way that consciousness worked, the way that our mind operates. But when she would sit in her sitting practice, her body would not cooperate. She would center into her practice, and she experienced just a return to her awareness of the lifelong struggle that she had had with a degenerative disease that caused her great periods of pain and weakness in her body. And so every time she went into meditation, that pain would come right back into her awareness in a huge way. And she thought that meditation would take her out of her pain. And every time she meditated, the aches, the pains would come in her sitting and her walking meditations. And she just couldn't get over this pain. And after several retreats, the pain got even worse. And she didn't come for that. She came to have spiritual experiences and not to experience her old pain. And she was asked, what is your relationship with this pain? And her response was, oh, I am aware of it. I'm just being aware of it. However, she was secretly hoping that it would go away. I'm aware of it and I want it to go away. So she was experiencing a lot of resistance to this pain that was coming up and feeling that it shouldn't be there. But one day, after being in retreat for hours and just frustrated with the presence of this pain, again and again, she finally let go of her resistance and just had an open attention. And she saw it all in a whole new light. She had spent her whole life trying to get outside of this pain, outside of her body completely. And she hated this pain. She hated her body. She hated this experience. She was trying to use meditation to get outside of herself, and it took her so deeply into herself. And when she saw this, that she had been trying to get out of herself for so long, she wept. She deeply, deeply wept from her soul. She recognized that she had showed her body very little love. And this was the turning point. This is the gold in the practice, that in going in and through the pain, rather than trying to circumvent it, in opening to it and allowing it to be and seeing it for what it is in our relationship, her relationship with it. She decided that she would work with sitting with her body in pain and to bring it all the tenderness and all the mercy that she possibly could. And as she did this, honoring her body in all of its pain, her body began to soften. And she began to experience a great love and a compassion that people could see in her eyes. And she then went forward to become a teacher of these spiritual values that she once sought, of this coming into opening the heart to a greater acceptance of the inner experience. And we know that when we can bring our full presence to our own pain and suffering, how much more facile do we become at being able to do that for others in our lives. In every aspect of our life, there is a chance to turn straw into gold when we go to our hearts and we become willing to learn from this difficulty rather than constantly resisting it, whining and complaining about it, trying to push it away. Instead of fighting it, we can use our wisdom and discover our good fortune in the difficulty. The Buddha said this: just as the oceans have but one taste, the taste of salt, so too there is but one taste fundamental to all true teachings of the way, and this is the taste of freedom. Freedom being the gold. Our spiritual practice helps us to find freedom in the midst of the difficulty. And how this helped me, I think back to when I was in my third year of ministerial school. And the energy in the student body at that time, there was a lot of energy that I was picking up of fear and concern about the future. What kind of job am I going to get? Where am I going to go? This is going to end, and what's life going to look like? And there was energy that was coming back towards problems with the school, different things that the fear was manifesting in different ways. And I recognized as I sat with that fear in my meditation practice, and I was practicing insight meditation at that time, that I had a choice. I could listen to that fear and allow it to turn into gold, to allow that fear to turn into something else as I presenced it. And I listened to it and what the fear needed. The fear needed my trust and my support. And so I was there for myself, and I decided that I had some choices in how I was going to show up in my third year, and that it was a limited time journey, that soon I would be leaving Unity Village, so I did everything I could to enjoy the village, to enjoy the people, to appreciate the people, to make connections, to volunteer in ways that gave me joy, and to not volunteer in ways that weren't going to give me joy. I did not want to get involved in things that were just building up this fear consciousness. And I'm not saying that everybody who I was in school with was like this. This was just something I was picking up on, okay? And I think it's pretty common, as in any program, as people graduate, they want to know what's next. And so I have seen myself face that every time there's a juncture where, like, I just finished a training to become a soul collage facilitator, and it's like, well, what's next? What do I do with that next? And the fear comes up, and I have learned that I can take that, I can recognize when that comes up, and I don't have to let that inhibit me. Because in my life, I can think of enough times in my life that I've let that difficulty of anxiety or fear be something that stopped me from doing something I really wanted to do, because I thought, well, I can't do it because this fear is here, right? But if I can take that fear and love it, and see what it needs to tell me and listen. So that can be true of anger, we can listen. Judgment, we can listen. What does it need to tell me? Because that energy is coming up in a big way, for some way to learn, to comfort, grow through that. And that's that stretch. I feel like fear, I get into fear when I'm stretching. So if we want to grow, we've got to stretch, right? We've got to get into our uncomfortable places. I love this story that has to do with stretching that Jack Kornfield tells, and it's the story of the poisoned tree. So interesting. It shows the process of our maturing through approaching our difficulties. So there are 3 different approaches to this poison tree. And the first approach to the poison tree is that some people see the poison tree as only danger. They see it and they say, let's cut this down before anybody gets hurt, before anybody gets poisoned, before anybody eats this fruit. And so this is an example of our initial response to difficulties that arise in our lives. Well, let's just cut it out. When we face sorrow or loss or fear or conflict or depression, that we call it bad, we say it's hurting us, let's uproot it, let's get rid of it, let's cut it down. So that is considered the beginner response on the spiritual path to the poison tree. So as people are further along on the spiritual path and discover the poison tree, they don't treat it with aversion. They've already opened to life and have a compassion, more of a deep compassion for that which is around them. So they see that this tree is somehow connected to them. And they say, well, let's not cut it down. The best thing that we can do is to have compassion for this tree. So they decide, out of kindness, to build a fence out around the tree so others won't be poisoned and the tree will still have life. And this represents our shift from judgment and fear into compassion. Then there's this third type of person who has traveled even deeper on the spiritual path, who sees this same poison tree. This person has gained much vision and knowledge and wisdom, looks at the tree and says, oh, a poison tree? Perfect! This is just what I was looking for. And the individual picks the poison fruit, they study the fruit, They learn about its properties and how it can be a healing agent. They mix it with other ingredients, and they take what was a poison and use it as a medicine to heal the sick and to transform the ills of the world. So through this person's understanding and deeper wisdom and respect of this poison tree, this person sees it in a way that is opposite to the way that most people see a difficulty, a problem, struggling circumstances. So which one are you of the three? What do you think? How do you see difficulties and obstacles in your life? Are you willing to experience spiritual alchemy and discover the gift in the poison tree? What freedom has yet to be found in the midst of your difficulties? The things that we do well, I know when I go into spiritual direction with my spiritual director, I always wonder, well, why am I always talking about the places where I'm struggling? I should be talking more about the things that are working well, which I do sometimes, but I recognize that the areas where I'm struggling, well, that's where I'm growing. That's my opportunity to grow. I don't need support necessarily on the things that are working well. I need support on the areas that I need to open up more in, that I need a deeper understanding, that I need to see how is this, what I'm seeing as a poison tree, something that can bring me a gift, that can bring me life, that's a straw that can be turned into gold. If our strength is to think through things, then thoughts won't be our best teacher. If our strength is to feel through things, then feelings aren't going to be the best way to learn, according to Jack Kornfield. He says the place where we're most open up to the mystery of life is in what we don't do well, where we struggle, where we're vulnerable. And that is the very ground where seed is planted and new things are born in us, in and through that. So if we can just see that as, oh, I recognize that as an opportunity for me to grow in my understanding, my compassion, my willingness to see this person for who they are rather than my projection upon them or the great feelings that arise in me due to this difficulty. So I want to invite you to do something, to take on a practice, and that's to look in your life at where you're having judgment or anger in your life. And there's gold in that. There's gold in the judgment and anger when we take the time to value what is being said within us when we experience that. That through the experience of judgment or anger, we can recognize in ourselves our own value of justice and of integrity. And so when you listen to that judgment and that anger arise within you, that can be changed into something that can be valuable to yourself, to other people, in your own wisdom, and in the actions that you choose to take. And so transformed, what may feel like self-destructive or other-destructive, transformed when you listen to it and when you glean the wisdom in it that is trying to give you, it gives us clarity to see what needs to be done, how to be more skillful, and what limits we might want to set. And so that is how we begin to birth what Jack Kornfield calls discriminating wisdom. As we listen to what is arising within us, that there's always that gold present. So are you willing to turn your straw into gold and see the value in your difficulties? I want to close with a Tibetan prayer in which, before every step of their spiritual practice, they would pray this prayer, calling in difficulties as gifts. And here's the prayer. Grant that I may be given appropriate difficulties and sufferings on this journey, so that my heart may be truly awakened and my practice of liberation and universal compassion may be truly fulfilled. And so let us choose to face our difficulties with compassion, with an open heart, with faith, and with love. And in doing so, we will see our straw turning into gold. And so it is.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.